Hey, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So happy to have you be a part of this new and wonderful, glorious thing. So anyway, we are here ready to start. And we're going to go on what is pillar number 2. And so pillar number 2 is her dedication and focus. And we see an example of that found in the movie, The Little Mermaid. I have an essential oil that I brought to the altar today called Focus. And we're going to also begin to discuss her steps to awakening, to her awakening. And we're going to also talk about the disciples that, because we had mentioned in pillar number 1 about her leadership. And so we're going to also explore just who were her disciples that she worked with. So we have beautiful opportunity to go through, and questions will come up. So you can either write them down and hold them. I will have a Q&A time at the end. Or if you have a real burning question, just raise your hand and just say, I gotta have this question answered, and then we will, we will stop and take care of your question. This is a really important aspect of who Magdalene is and why she is so profound and won't go away, and because she was able to become in what they call a wholehearted state. And because she was able to become wholehearted, and live from her heart and be guided from her heart and connect and extend her heart with the Christ consciousness that she is, Christ consciousness that he is, they became, into a place of oneness. Okay. The altar to the heart is really important. In the Course in Miracles, ultimately, the altar of heart is within us, but it helps us to create the ritual space. So that's why I've asked everybody to start with an altar of a heart. And that's what we want to do at this point. Is I'm going to I lit the candle to Mary Magdalene earlier, and I'm going to take and light the candle to Mother Mary as a signal and a demonstration that we don't do this alone. We do this together. And so I've got both the Magdalene and Mother Mary side by side. And then for myself, since this is pillar number 2 is on focus, I took the essential oil called Focus, and I'm using it too, because she had tremendous focus, and and she was a master of essential oils. This is what she did for a living. This is how she made her money. So we'll just take a moment and make this very sweet and amazing and loving journey from the head to the heart. And if everybody could just stop for a moment and just go within and find that sweet spot in your heart where you can know that you are loved, because you carry the eternal flame of the love of the created Sun in your heart, the created life force that beautiful Shakti energy, life itself, that makes us all equal, makes us all whole. There's nothing that needs to be fixed, nothing that needs to be changed. We already are the loving presence of love itself, right here and right now. And we can go and claim it at any moment, at any time, where it never leaves us. There's no wind that blows it away. There's no fire that can burn it out. There's no water that can destroy it. It is eternal and always ever present. Blessed be. Amen. Thank you. All right. So now the journey begins. So we're going to take a minute and review Pillar 1 about being in harmony. And the basic ideas was how she handled disharmony. The principles that she identifies to us in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is that we feel our feelings. So she did not deny her feelings, and she felt no shame about having her feelings, even when she was weeping in front of the men. This was the passage that we read, which if you have your Gospel of Mary Magdalene book, you can, it's on page 18. Then Mary wept, and she answered him, "My brother Peter, what can you be thinking? Do you believe that this is just my own imagination, that I invented this vision?" So she just got through telling him about the vision that she had that allowed her to become basically enlightened. "Or do you believe that I would lie about our teacher?" At this, Levi spoke up. "Peter, you have always been a hot-tempered, and now we see you repudiating a woman, just as our adversaries do. Yet if the teacher held her worthy, who are you to reject her?" And then it goes on to say, "Surely the teacher knew her very well, and for he loved her more than us. Therefore let us atone and become fully human, anthropos, and so that the teacher can take root in us. Let us grow as he demanded of us and walk forth to spread the gospel without trying to lay down any rules and laws other than those he witnessed." Well, unfortunately, they didn't carry out that dictate because they laid down a lot of rules and a lot of laws. But the original intent was that they were to become into what is called this anthropos state, which we're going to begin to explore it. And so it's an important state of consciousness that he's talking about achieving. So how she handled this disharmony that Peter was demonstrating to her as a hothead, she was honest, and as she expressed how she felt, she allowed herself to weep with no shame. She spoke from her heart, and because she spoke from her heart, there was not a feeling of judgment being communicated. So she's not judging him, she's just speaking her truth. This is very hard. I mean, so many women have a hard time standing up to men. And she was genuinely sad that Peter felt the way he did. And she still held him as her brother. So this is the work that we have to do, the Donald Trumps, the people that, you know, are in our life as in an adversarial position to us. We still hold them in our hearts as our brothers because they are the same life force that we are, and so we are one with them. And she speaks the truth in the presence of support. And I noticed that this was one of the things that she was doing. And because she was in right alignment, and she was in her heart, and she was being her authentic self, she actually ended up getting support. So you heard Levi coming to her support and saying, hey, you know, the master said we're supposed to acknowledge women as being worthy and our adversaries don't. So aren't we supposed to follow the master? Isn't that what we agreed to do? And And so this is why it's an important demonstration of, it allowed her to get, this is an element of her leadership skills. It allowed her to bring in the support and the alliance of those who are ready in consciousness. And some of the disciples are kind of right on the fence. They could be brought forward a little bit more. They could be elevated to a higher state. But they, like us, need a living example, a living demonstration. And so that's what she was in that moment. She was the living example. So when we join, we choose to see our brother as a brother. And we then move ourselves, because we're connected with that which is the greater truth. We become our higher spacious self. We become our Christed self. So this joining, this is one of my teams that I worked with. And this joining is like, you can see the happiness, the love, the support was all there, the harmony. This was Easter a couple of years ago. And we just had so much fun. We were telling her story. This is the Moonrise Easter service. Everybody was so happy. We were just in an exalted state of joy. One day I'm going to do this Moonrise service at Grace Cathedral, because I think that's where, because they have the beautiful painting of Mary Magdalene there, and I think that's where it would be great to be done from. But there were 42 of us, and we were telling the story of Mary Magdalene through her eyes and what she was doing and what she was saying, and there's just nothing like it in the whole world. So the other thing about being in harmony is that it takes a commitment to be in your right mind, because the ego will have none of it. Ego wants us to be thinking all kinds of weird thoughts, harmful thoughts that are not good for us to think. And it takes a real discipline to come into right alignment and to be committed to be in our right mind. And when we get off track, to get back on track as quickly as we can. This is a page where LeLoup is trying to help us to understand what this idea of wholeness is all about. And we are a part of everything. All this energy and life force that creates life itself is all a part of what is. The I am light, the archangels, which are the messengers of God, the human that is in an anthropos state. Anthropos means that when a seed is birthed, a seed contains the blueprint, like an oak tree, of an oak acorn. So this is, of course, the best self of all, is to be in your exalted, elevated self while you're here on earth. Because if you achieve an anthropos state of consciousness while you're here on earth, then what happens is you experience heaven on earth. And that's what happened to her. This is another more simplified way of looking at it. Course in Miracles shares that it's love or fear. And there's a really interesting thing. It says at the very top, where we reach a climate of peace, that the Gospel of Mary Magdalene refers to that she reached a climate of peace. And I have got my master's in comparative religions and did a lot of study in spirituality, and the use of the climate word, unless somebody has heard of it before, I've never seen it used any other place. So it caught my attention when I noticed the two places were referring to it as a climate of peace. And there's an important reason why, which we'll go into a little bit more. But you see, we in essence have a split mind. And when we split off, that's kind of what created the Big Bang, is the mind of the ego thought. It's a thought. The ego is nothing more than a thought structure. And it split off to know ourselves as separate, and it's all based on fear. And the fear thoughts that the ego puts forth of that we're separate, we're different, we judge and evaluate, and all these conditions that we place on each other, out pictures in the world of illusion as reflections of what we're thinking. And so what we're seeing before us and that's why this very famous, I mean, some of you have heard about the Ho'oponopono forgiveness work that Dr. Liu did in and that Hawaiian ancient wisdom that he practiced was that if a crazy person is standing before you, there's some place within yourself that you are crazy. And so you're projecting it out. And so you're seeing this reflected out in your world. And if you forgive that process, instead of trying to make the person go away, then another person will come back in, or a different thing will happen. It's you have to own it, 100% responsibility. You have to realize that it's part of your created world that you're creating in your mind's eye, and so you have to forgive it. And then when you move over into the right side, and you're in right-minded thinking, this is where you're living your life based on love. And the Holy Spirit is basically influencing which is the extension of the God of all, the Christ itself, the whatever you, Buddha nature, anything you want to call it. But it comes from, as you can see in the middle, it comes from the point of choice. So we can choose it at any time. But usually what has to happen is there has to be some form of awakening where you realize that you are at choice and that you can make the choice. And so then you can move over and be influenced by the Holy Spirit more. Although the Holy Spirit is working very hard to customize your awakening. And the beauty of it is that the Holy Spirit will place into your life the things that need to wake you up. Now, what needs to wake me up is going to be entirely different, possibly, than what needs to wake you up. For me, I needed the Divine Feminine to help wake me up. And so do a lot of other women. And some women that don't know that they need it, but we'll find out when they begin to move into it. So everything in the world of illusion needs to be forgiven. So as you're looking on this screen and you're seeing your separated selves out there with all the other people on board, and or listening to the words of other people who are the separated selves, what you will find is that it just all has to be forgiven. So forgiveness is, and Eileen is doing some really great work. Perhaps down the road you can share with us your forgiveness work that you're doing with the group, because it's the cornerstone of this work too. So at the level of the climate of peace, nothing needs to be forgiven. Because if you're at the highest level and you're in God consciousness and you're experiencing your oneness with all that is, then you're not judging it, you're not evaluating it, you're not pointing the fingers at it, you're not blaming, you're not shaming, you're not doing any of those things. And so there is that freedom that comes where there's nothing to forgive, because no one can hurt you other than what you allow for them to hurt you. Now, when you're unconscious to that, then you can be hurt all the time. And the Course says, does the mind of the ego have harmful thoughts that can hurt the body? You bet. Absolutely. So that makes it even more important to switch over and start having right-minded things, healthy thoughts, positive thoughts, all those kinds of things, or even just authentic thoughts where you're able to think the truth. So that's the journey that Magdalene was taking, as we will see through the Course. She became whole. She became the Anthropos. So the dove above her is the Holy Spirit, illuminating her presence. She is considered the Holy Grail. And you see that hand gesture that she's in? That's one of the holy hand gestures or mudras, that she's a holy woman. Anyway, it takes a presence of mind, a state of being conscious. It is not the act of doing, but the act of being. that we're moving into. We're coming into a new time and a new era where the feminine is rising, and because the feminine is rising, it's represents the state of being, not the and being conscious, which is not an act of doing. So your presence of mind is heartfelt desire to become wholehearted. And I tell you, when I learned this idea, there was something about it I just loved. And I think it's because wholehearted has no dogma in it. It's like everybody can relate to being wholehearted. It is so sweet. And so she ascended and into, while she was present on earth, before she actually had her own resurrection, which she did, she ascended into a wholehearted state of consciousness, which is the fully blossomed, fully illuminated state of being. So we are making this journey from our heads to our hearts, where our heads are evaluating and judging things and seeing separation. And next, leave us our next pillar, we're going to really go into how it is with our physical body, our physical eyes, that we actually see separation. And she tells a beautiful story of how she learned, Magdalene learned not to see herself as separate, but see herself as one with God, which is what Jesus was trying so hard to do, to get the disciples. Like, do you have the ears to hear and the eyes to see? And also the raising up of consciousness is a raising up of safety. You know, there is a woman who did her doctoral dissertation work, Margaret, on the virgin birth phenomena. And she noticed in the literature and studying the ancient literature that there was this period of matriarchal for about 30,000 years where they were, digging things up. I think I mentioned this the last time. They were digging artifacts up, and there's like no weapons of war. It was obviously a very maternal culture, goddess revered. Lots of little goddess statues were found. In fact, most of them had bodies like mine. So they were older women who were childbearers, and they were revered and worshipped for their childbearing abilities. And so there was this idea of safety was happening with the matriarchal culture that allowed women to achieve very, very high states of consciousness, which were called the oracles. And the oracle women were sought out by the kings. And so this was a really important group of women because they had access to knowledge beyond the present realm of matter, and so could guide the teachers, the kings and the queens who are coming to see them. But at this level of consciousness, all is well. And there's a lot of safety. And the Course in Miracles verifies that. So only the love of God will protect you in all circumstances. Love will lift you out of every trial and raise you high above all the perceived dangers of this world into a climate. And this is where the Course in Miracles mirrors the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, a climate of perfect safety and peace. So be in the present moment is something that happens when you're in harmony, because you're in a vertical position. You're not in the past judging. You're not in the future worrying. So you've let go of all of that. You're just right here in this moment, accepting what is, loving what is, and acquiring the energy of peace and harmony from God. Love will transport you into a state of mind that nothing can threaten, nothing can disturb. So this is the opening of these ideas, is that this is where all is well. Because when you're enwrapped in love, and I told some stories about that, which I won't go into in the first seminar, where nothing can intrude upon the eternal calm of the Son of God. And so when you're at peace, when you're not in your ego mind, and there's nothing to forgive because you are the presence of love. and you know yourself as love, and all your job is to do is to extend and give love and bring forth that peace. Now, I, in my Magdalene obsession, was buying every book under the sun. And this particular book, which is The Secret Teachings of Mary Magdalene, including the lost verses of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, revealed and published for the first time, it's by Claire Nahmad, Nahmad, and Margaret Bailey. And the reason this book is so phenomenal is that it actually contains, because in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the first 6 pages are missing. And then later on, there are missing pages throughout different fragments and sections. And this woman channeled the missing pages. So I thought it was fun, and I did a class one time to kind of look at, is it consistent with what is in here? And does it match up and align? Because when I bought this book, I didn't buy it because I saw that it had the missing pages in it. I wasn't even thinking that. It was just another Magdalene book that I was doing so much research on. And then it was revealed to me in a question I had in my mind, and I picked this book up and I went, holy smokes, there's the missing pages are right here. And one of the ideas on page 11 is that it explains a little bit more that we become fully human. We become one whole body of light, the one breath. And the one breath is a very important dynamic towards this ascension process that Mary Magdalene goes through. So I was just completely blown away. And then this is a picture of my birthday. And just the way the camera got taken, I thought was so funny. And I was like, I'm halfway there. At least I got my head full of light. Maybe now my body will go through to full of light, right? I hope so. It would be great to just be a being of light and have the one breath. So I'm working on it, but I'm still human at this point. The other thing is that when we breathe in meditation, we breathe as if we're light as a feather. And remember the feather of Ma'at story, that it is when our heart is as light as a feather that we can then go into heaven. But heaven is right here and right now, right? The kingdom of heaven is here. So connecting the in-breath with the out-breath as one connected breath becomes really incredibly important. And so being in harmony is becoming vertical, connected to source, the one breath. Now, you'll see if you go to my website, thegospelofmarymagdalene.info, I have a free offering of the crop circles that are related to Mary Magdalene. And so you can see what has been happening in the phenomena of crop circles. But this, I was told in some of my research, I found out that there were crop circles that were forming on the feast day of Mary Magdalene that actually were related to the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And I was like, whoa, this is like, what other crop circles are there? So I got crazy in my research to find all the crop circles that formed on Magdalene's feast day and what they were about. And it's a fascinating story of the Vesica Piscis, and it really ultimately brings us into the awareness and the consciousness that we're moving into a new era, which is the era of the divine feminine, and where the Magdalene is coming forth as a leader in her full right and her full glory. So this is all the 7 chakra centers in the body. The open crown chakra, which is cosmic consciousness, the third eye, which is our 6th sense, what they call the rainbow bridge, and the throat, which is the chakra that's related to, and it's interesting, the throat is related to hearing the silence. So you'll just think about those words for a minute. You'll see how that unfolds as we go through some of the information that has been revealed about her awakening. And then we have the heart chakra, which is the touch, and the chalice contains the cup. You remember that painting that her chalice was right in front of her heart, holding the love. And then the solar plexus, the sight, which is the star. And then the sacral chakra, the taste and the breath. And then the base chakra, which is the smell, which is the rose. And that was curious to me, why the root chakra would be considered the rose. And part of that has to do with, because the scent of the rose opens the heart and allows us to ascend. It's a smell that when you smell the rose, it kind of opens you up, and it's so beautiful that it, and then of course, I love this painting because this says it all. You know, we're moving into the area now in this time period where male and female are equal and balanced. So it's Christ consciousness along with Sophia Christ consciousness as one. So in the world of duality, we have black, white, male, female, dark, night, all that kind of stuff, day. Contrast, coming into oneness is having to learn and to accept that this is an equal energy that is shared through the heart with each other. And when we do that, when we learn to do that, we become one. So that's pillar one, be in harmony. Takes focus though. So you got to breathe. Let me take a moment just to breathe and connect with your own heart as we begin to move to pillar number 2. And so we'll be going through these different steps that we're talking about. This first part is this idea of, you notice there are a lot of paintings where she has the skull, which is represented by the Christ mind. And she's connected to it. She's always holding it. She's always connected to it in some way. And then she's got her hand on her heart, which shows that she's entering into or connecting to the Christ consciousness through her heart. So then throughout the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, you'll see it says, do you have the ears to hear and the eyes to see? So many people, when you're talking to, won't understand because their consciousness hasn't come to the place where they can be open to a higher and greater truth. And so they don't have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. So what you're saying doesn't make sense to them. And what I found is that as the deeper I go into the study, it's like a portal's open, and what I see and what I hear, the greater truth becomes more and more, and the frequencies rise, and my spacious self becomes more present. So on page 8 of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, it talks about attachment to matter gives rise to the passion against nature. This trouble arises in the whole body, and this is why I tell you, be in harmony. So this attachment to matter is the same idea that was put forth by the Buddha, that when we get attached to matter, we want our stuff, we like our bed, we want our separate bank accounts, we want all of this. It gives rise to passion against our true nature. Because what is our true nature? Our true nature is generosity. Our true nature is extension of love. Our true nature is peace that is given to all. There's not, I'm only going to share peace with you, and I'm not going to be peaceful with you, and there's none of that. So this is why I tell you, be in harmony. If you are out of balance, then you have to take inspiration from the manifestation of your true nature, because it's the truth of who God is that restores you to the truth of who you are, because you have never left being who you are. You are always who you are. You are the love of God. And so those who have ears, let them hear. So sometimes people aren't ready for this, You would think the webinars like this would be packed, but a lot of people are not ready for this. The Course of Love basically says that we've only recently gotten into an elevated state of consciousness where some of these ideas can even come forth in various expressions. So are you ready to let her show you how to go within? Okay, we're ready to go through a portal. Connecting to the heart. And divine mind is one. That's funny, that noise I didn't know was happening. So this, I found, is a path of awakening. And this is a painting that was depicting the end of her life when she is beyond bliss. She's just in an exalted state of ecstasy all the time. She can't even move. She can't do anything. She has to be lifted up and fed by the angels. So this is one of those beautiful paintings of showing, what her enlightened state of consciousness. And of course, there's the skull there in the alabaster jar so that we know that it's her. So when we look at this dedication and focus that she had that led to her awakening, one morning, and this is how I discovered it, okay, I was sitting in my own meditation going within, and I heard Magdalene underwater. And I thought, what? Magdalene underwater? What on earth could Magdalene underwater be? And so I went and Googled it. And what came up was the George Latour painting in the movie The Little Mermaid. And I was so baffled, like, whoa, that's really interesting, because I've seen the Little Mermaid movie and I don't remember seeing the George Latour painting. So how did this come to be? And what ended up happening was I realized that this particular painting is a painting of a series of 3 paintings. And so I began to do my own research on why they might have thought, or maybe were guided to select out of the hundreds and hundreds of Renaissance paintings of Mary Magdalene. There are a lot of them, because I've been researching and collecting every painting of Mary Magdalene, because there are clues in those paintings. Many of the painters were heretics, and they painted the true stories right under the church's nose to keep the stories alive for the people, because people did not read, so they got their knowledge from the painting. So an interesting thing happened in this research I was doing. I came across a blog that was written by Margaret Starr. Now, Margaret Starr wrote the book, The Woman with the Alabaster Jar. And I strongly suggest that you read that book, or get that book. It's kind of one of the pinnacle ones. And for Catholics, it's really important, because she was a good army wife. And when she started hearing about all this stuff about Jesus and Mary were married and they had sex and had kids, I was like, oh no. She goes, I'm going to put a stop to that. And because she was an academic scholar as well. And so she decided to research, and turned out that she found out it is right, not so. That there's more evidence that she was married and that their partnership was a marriage. So anyway, her 7-year-old grandson plays with a little girl named Sarah. And Sarah is considered to be the name of Magdalene's daughter. And she told Margaret, knowing that she had written a book on Magdalene, that she saw Ariel with a painting of Mary Magdalene. And she's like, what? I've watched that movie so many times with my grandson. How is this possible? It's not possible, I missed seeing that. I didn't see the painting of Mary Magdalene there. And so she went to find it, and sure enough, it was there. So Walt Disney has, been really instrumental in helping to bring awareness, and the divine feminine in America got shipwrecked. And of course, a lot of these favorite fairy tales that were written long ago were adopted by them for the movies. So they ended up finding out that, the Mayflower did not bring over, the Pilgrims did not bring over. When you go to France and England and whatnot, you see all these great cathedrals and statues, Notre Dame to the Grand Lady, and Magdalene. Things are all over. She's honored and revered. And so they have preserved that over there. And that's why a lot of women in America take pilgrim journey. Celestine just got back from France this summer. So, or this past spring, last year. Anyway, it's a life-changing event. So the movie of Ariel starts out with Ariel defying her father that she's going to search for the sunken treasure. And her white bearded patriarchal father forbade Ariel to explore the treasure, which is another word for is the Gnosis, or the divine mind. And so in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, it says, there where is the Gnosis, the divine mind, lies the treasure. And so here is the Sistine Chapel picture of the of God, the divine mind of God. And what's interesting is you notice, and you'll see how she is, so you see how his arm is wrapped around this woman, and nobody's really known who this woman was. Well, in my research, I discovered that she is considered to be Sophia. She is the feminine face of God, and she's holding up the masculine face of God as he's reaching out his hand to connect with Adam. So she is denied the knowledge of the treasures. What she found was destroyed. So here's her wrathful father coming into the cave where she had the painting, and the painting is up on the cave wall, and you get a glimpse of it for like 5 seconds, and that's why nobody ever sees it. And but this little 7-year-old girl saw it, and not only did she see it, but she knew it was Magdalene, which is really amazing. And her name was Sarah. So there's your mythical, thing that happens there. So when she is faced with an older woman, the older woman, of course, is portrayed as the sea devil, and suddenly this father, who's this angry, can do all destructive things and big and powerful in the face of his little daughter, oh my God, Daddy, please don't. Suddenly he's meek and helpless in the face of the woman. And of course, what was happening was the way that women were being treated, especially after Pope Gregory diminished the status of women by saying that Magdalene was a prostitute. What ended up happening was women got demonized, and women were burned at the stake. And of course, the cultural norm, as we saw in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, Peter is saying, no way, I'm not going to allow this. We can't have a woman in our inner circle. What is Jesus thinking? He must be crazy. And so anyway, it's just a very, very harsh. So anyway, you see the conditioning that's happened with many, many of the Disney movies have made women, older women, who are wise to the ways of men. We've had some experience with men. We could guide the young maidens as to how to deal with them and how to restore our own sovereignty in relation to them. But because we've been demonized and painted out as being ugly and repulsive and whatnot, it doesn't want young girls to go to us. And so even if we are beautiful, like in this particular one here, where she has some beauty, most of the time it's scary and powerful, and she's gonna betray you, she's gonna kill your man, and she's a devil, she's got horns, so you don't want to get close to her and get to know her. And of course, all these old fairy tales were written by patriarchal men. And if they can condition women to just seek out the young man and find out, you'll be whole when you get, that wholeness comes when you find your other half. It doesn't come because you are whole already. No, we're not going to teach you that. And certainly don't go talk to a woman who's discovered that, an older wise woman, a wise elder, like in the American Indian culture, where the wise elder women are on the council and they help to lead the tribe. So, that's why Disney has been very helpful to help us to alert. So where is this treasure she finds? And why did they picked this particular painting. That's what I thought was really curious. And of course, in the movie, it goes on to talk about not only does Ariel have the Magdalene red hair, which is a symbol of her connection to Magdalene, but the Little Mermaid is stripped of her voice. Youth are entrained to avoid seeking out the elder. The young woman learns not to want the wisdom of the elder, but to be repelled by her. Like she's going to hurt you. If you go seek her counsel, you're going to have bad things happen to you because she just wants your beauty and your youth, and she's going to steal it from you. And all these horrible things that make young people. That's why most of us, as we get older, find there are no young people around us. And of course, in the Last Supper painting, you'll see it up in this corner. This is Peter's hand, who is cutting off the voice of the Magdalene. So when our consciousness became high enough, we were actually able to see that not only was this picture here Mary Magdalene, which is Da Vinci painted a pen and ink drawing of Mary Magdalene, which he labeled Mary Magdalene, and it matches this face perfectly. And you can also see down here in the corner the Isis knot, which ties her connection to Isis, which I think we talked about last time. So for those that hang in there and get to the end of our series of the pillars, I will send you a little thing I've put together on what the steps of her meditation, because we're going to take some time to go in and look at it. So the Smoking Flame was the painting of George Latour. And this is a painting of 3. And there's some really interesting things about this painting. One is that Margaret Starr says in her research of Renaissance artists that when an artisan is a heretic, they always put an X. So I don't know whether you can find the X in this painting or not. And but I'm going to show it to you. It's right here. The dark leg crossed by the light over the light leg. It's creating the X. The other thing is that in this painting, you'll see that she's very sensual. She's very much into a feeling mode. She's very fluid, and she's got incredible focus on the light. Her hand, again, is on the Christ consciousness, Christ's mind. So she's got herself aligned with right thinking, and she's in a very powerful feeling mode. So the steps of her awakening come from these 3 paintings. The first painting is her feeling nature. So the way that we get to the love that we are and connect with it is through feeling. The second is being vigilant to the light of love, which is this is the second in the series. And this third painting is that we expand, we understand, and we come to know, this is not knowing like book knowledge knowing. This is knowing through access and cultivation to the divine mind. And this particular knowing is what they call the Gnosis, the ability to know the truth of who you are by having all the blocks and obstacles and barriers related to the truth of your Christed self, and having that become fully awakened to you. And so when you allow that, you kind of see how she sits up and she's like relaxed and she's kind of almost kicked back. So these are the basic steps that to me, it was very exciting finding these 3 paintings and seeing the nose, because I realized that they were the steps to the discovery of how she was able to discover the light within herself. And so when we do this meditation for ourselves, the artist, it's almost to me as if the artist has the Gospel of Mary Magdalene in his possession. And he's like, okay, how do I paint for people? Because people don't read. How do I paint for people how she did this, how she became such a fully empowered and illuminated being? So this is why he has this painting. And you'll notice this is what they call an oil lamp. And you see there's all these books, and this particular brown corded thing is the tool, I forget what they call it, is the flagellant, where they would beat themselves because they thought they were sinners. But the Gospel of Mary Magdalene says there is no sin other than what we decide and make as a rule. And remember, Jesus said, no rules. You're just love, and just know that you're love. And so but the ego wants you to beat it out of you, right? And then the cross, this is the cross that's on the table. And all of those are on the table, and they're kind of slightly set back because all that she's focused on is the light. So she becomes humble and an empty vessel for the light. She breathes in and feels into the light. So she's really acknowledging the truth, and she understands that she has to be really vigilant and highly dedicated and focused in order to create this happening. So the other thing, is that she's in a feeling mode. So you saw that the shawl of her blouse is like off her shoulders. That's in a very sexy mode. Her skirt is hiked up on her knees. So she is in a very sensual place because love is connected to feeling love. When you're feeling love, you're soft, you're sensual, you're expressing that. It's like, and then, because she's like so focused, the only thing that's going on is her heartfelt intention on the light and slowing her breath down until she feels what they call the silence of the breath. And so if you just stop for a minute and just take a moment to just kind of check in with this. We take a moment of silence, and you can feel your body breathing. So there's an action that's happening. You're alive, and you're breathing because you can feel your chest rise and fall. And maybe the way that you're breathing, you can feel it going all the way down into your belly. Maybe you can feel the breath moving through your body even more than that. So you just have more awareness. And so by that practice of being connected with love, looking at love, things shift. So you see now the skull is on top of the book. There's only one book though. There's not a pile of books. There's only just one book. The cross is gone because it's not about the cross. It's about the love. It's not about the flagellant beating at yourself as a sinner, because it's about love. And what we are being asked to do is to know ourselves as love. So I'm looking at this painting and I'm thinking, wow, this painting is really dark. I need to blow it up in order to really see what is actually going on. Whoa! When I blew it up, I was like, holy smokes, this is really different. Her focus has now changed. So, and she can clearly see from her eyes, she's looking at the mirror. She's no longer focused on the light, right? Because things have now shifted. And so in the mirror, technically here is the back of the skull, right? But you can clearly see in the mirror, it's the eyes of Christ. It's this front section, which doesn't have the fingers in it, because if the mirror was somehow going to capture the front, it would have shown her fingers are there, right? But she's like tuned in to the Christ mind. She's tuned in to Christ consciousness. She knows who she is. She's beginning to understand because she's so into the feeling of love. There's no blocks or barriers for her. She's wholehearted in her passion. And her feeling nature is so beautiful. You know, it's incredible. And you see how the candlelight is literally moving to be illuminating the crown chakra. And it's reflected in the mirror as an open, wide open third eye, right? So, but this picture here is really her face. It's reflecting her as the Christ. So she achieves what Jesus says. You know, he says the Father within does the work, right? Be the mind of Christ in you. As you get to know yourself as this Christ in consciousness. I'm just saying, I'm your brother. I walk with you, and you need to know yourself as the Christed one. Because we are not different, we are the same. And so when she looks at the mirror and she sees that she is the Christ, so this is really cool, because then now in the third painting, what's going on here? You notice some things have changed. One of the things is that both her blouses are now up, and she looks fully pregnant, like she's impregnated with this spirit. Instead of like trying to connect with the Christ mind, she's kind of like, oh, I got this one. I got it. I know who I am. So she's kind of like kicked back. And you see the fleur de lis, which is the royalty. And what happened to the oil-based candle? It is now solid. And look at this. There's jewels and pearls. So the Bible says we don't throw pearls before swine, right? So, but she's not swine. She's the illuminated one. She is the one who understood. Remember the Martha and Mary story we talked about last time? She got it. She understood what Jesus was saying. Is he saying that you are the same as me, that you are the exalted one, the indwelling spirit of God is in you, as you, and God wants to work through you and express love and healing and all these wonderful things. And so it just like everything got changed. And this is out of the Disney movie. I had no idea. So now you see the books are all gone, right? Because where is the Gnosis? Where is the knowledge? Where is the treasure? It's in her conscious connection to spirit, as above, so below, as within, without. You see the dual flame? The dual flame means that the mirroring, the ability to there's no, the veil is like, the veil's lifted. So she can enter both worlds. She knows she's got, some people would say, connection to the Akashic record. They have called her and referenced in a lot of the materials in the Gnostic that she is the woman who knew the all. You know, because she knew that she was one with God, that she is completely in perfect right alignment. So the oil lamp transforms into the solid candle, and the books are gone. You don't need any books, right? Because we just need to know this. And the only way that anyone can ever know it is from the work that we do through our own meditation. And so by following her steps and following her guidance, we learn how to do this. So so we're going to just kind of go through this as a little bit of an experience. So she entered in through the silence, breathing through the heart. So you just imagine for a moment that every breath you breathe in actually comes from breathing in through your heart. And as you breathe in, you want to make your breath very light. It's just an easy breath. You don't struggle to breathe. It's just connecting to the breath. As you're breathing in and breathing out. Connected as the one breath. Which means that as you're inhaling, you notice that at the top of the inhale, the breath comes down to the bottom as you let go, and the air comes back in as you breathe in again, and there's no stopping and starting. It's really just one breath. And for those that listen, you will hear the breath of silence, which means that you'll feel the breath moving your body in and out, just as a wave. So now you can move into a place of knowing that you can be still and know that you are God. So if you have a candle lit, and there should be a candle that you put on your altar so that you can practice having a moment of silence and doing this deep listening and feeling the silence of the breath of God in your body. For there is no life without the breath of God. Blessed be. So that just gives you a little taste of it. And my fantasy, of course, is to have a short little Magdalene video, all scaled to music on YouTube, where you can just hit the link and it just takes you through in a longer, more spacious way. But I just wanted you to kind of get a sense of this. Isn't that an amazing practice, what she developed as to how she figured out how to really make that connection within herself? And this is kind of really, people say, Mary Magdalene had sex with Jesus and that's what set her apart. To me, no, it's this kind of stuff. It's that she really understood who she was. She understood that she was, one with God. And that's what Jesus was asking. He was trying to teach his disciples, but they were so caught up in the fact that, no, we can't have a woman in this room. Why is there a woman? Why are you letting her in our inner circle? They were all hung up on that they completely missed the idea. And of course, I don't know if you know the Urantia book or not, but it's a book that has a section called the Life and Teachings of Jesus. And because I do all this Magdalene work, I was asked to be one of the keynote speakers at their conference to present the idea So I had a chance to do some deeper study about who these 12 disciples were. Because in the Urantia book, which is a channeled writing, it says of all the daring things which Jesus did, and really, believe me, it was daring because women were getting stoned and women were not a part of, and they were considered lower than life. Jesus did, it was with his earth career, the most amazing was his sudden announcement. He set apart 10 women for the ministering work of the kingdom. Plus, Mary Magdalene and Rebecca were involved with him in this. So I found this picture, which I thought was really fitting, because try to imagine just for a moment, what if we always knew who these women were? It's like we know who all the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and all those guys, we know who all they are, who all of them are, but we don't know the women that were the disciples of Magdalene. She was the head of the woman apostles commissioned by Jesus. And what a different world it would have been if they were truly embracing his teaching. And so you would have Susanna and Joanna and Elizabeth and Martha that are in the top row. And then you've got Rachel and Nasanta and Rebecca and Mary Magdalene are joined with them in the top row. And then on the bottom row, you have Milcha, Ruth, Agaman, and Celta. Now, some of these women have been spoken of in the Bible, and we do know a little bit of history of who some of these women are and were, and that's a whole nother body of research that would be wonderful to tell their stories. But this was the core group of women, and of course, in Luke chapter 8, it says there was a group of women, among them Mary Magdalene, who were the financiers of his ministry. So not only were these women commissioned to be women apostles, disciples with Mary Magdalene, but they were also wealthy women. That means they were very successful. They knew how to run things. They were very incredible. And then the Urantia book goes on to say that the most effective teacher of the gospel was Mary Magdalene. And this is one of the paintings of her actually teaching the to the men, which is what. So in Pillar 2, the next point is that we look at is the steps to her awakening and ascension, and how she moved through the climates to reach this climate of peace. Because it's not just, you can't just think about it. It's really learning how to live what they call above the battlefield. And to raise yourself up, you need to understand what is matter. So there's a whole section on quantum physics in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene on page 7. It talks about what is matter. Will it last forever? The teacher answered. All that is born and all that is created, all the elements of nature are interwoven and united with each other. So let's break this down and look at it. Atoms are the fundamental building blocks of all matter. An adult human being is made up with around, can anybody even guess what this number is? It's like a trillion, billion. I mean, I don't know. It's a lot of atoms. And it doesn't stop there, right? Because now they know that each atom has electrons and a nucleus, and they orbit. So there's another layer of breaking down. And then when you take that even further, you see that they've now come up with what they call the string theory, which is the smallest unit of matter, which is not really matter anymore, because it's really composed of tiny vibrating strands of energy called strings. So this is a live electromagnetic energy of life that finds and connects and forms together to create matter. And but it's all vibration. And we've heard for a while, quantum physics have been telling us that the nature of the universe is vibration, And there is no solid space. It's not, we think something's rock solid and hard, but actually when you take a magnifying glass and electromagnetic magnifying and go in, it's got a lot of space in it. So all the elements of nature, what are the elements of nature? Water, mineral, atoms, electrons, energy, are interwoven and united with each other. So this is an example of interconnected strings and how the strings come together, and as they come together, they form a particle. So, but they're always strings that are attached to other strings, so you have this way in which they're united with each other. So this is really cool. This is like quantum physics at its best, right? And so we have this vibrating field of connecting strings. So all that is composed, when it's composed, it's a particle, shall be decomposed, and then everything returns to its roots. So matter returns to the origins of matter. Well, in the beginning was light, right? Light is energy waves. So it's particles and waves, right? Quantum physics has told us this. So those who have ears, let them hear. And we hear through sound waves, right? So waves of string, the sound waves, and then when they form the sound, this is some interesting work that was done that shows that the sound of Om, when it's put through, creates the Yantra symbol that is thousands and thousands of years old, the mandala. And so they took a plate, electromagnetic plate with sand on it, and then they put the sound of Om through it, vibrating it through this tonoscope, and it actually created, through the particles moving, this this imaging. We're made in the image, right? The imaging of the Om sound appears as the yantra, which back in the ancient of ancients, they knew that. And they because they were able to access the knowledge and the Gnosis to know that they were one with God. So this is the cute cartoon, the shoestring theory of how all souls are connected. So we really all are one, right? So in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, of course, we're talking about this climate of peace, right? So peace be with you, and may my peace arise and be filled within you. Is what Jesus is asking us, so that when we remove all this layers of judgment and layers of conditioning and layers of, and we open our heart and we forgive the illusion and we step into our right-minded connectedness, what's left is the truth of who we are, our true nature. And so then we end up with peace. So attachment to matter gives rise to the passion against nature. Thus trouble arises in the whole body. And this is why I tell you, be in harmony. If you are out of balance, take inspiration from manifestations of your true nature. And those who have ears, let them hear. So this one little section, we have spent literally 4 hours building, talking about, going deeper in. And to me, this is like the jewel of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Like simple little things, all of a sudden, have so much depth and richness. If you take a Jungian point of view and just stop for a minute and think about it, what is happening here? What is being said? What is being asked of us? How are we being guided? It's, simple to practice, but not so easy to do, right? So we have to learn how to come back into harmony, come back into balance. And this is why I tell you, be in harmony. We take the inspiration from manifestations of our true nature, the peace and love and joy that we are. We just remember it, and it restores us, and it allows us to change back to this true nature. So anyway, next week we will go into Pillar 3, where we'll be talking about this love. And we have some time left today. So I just wanted to open it up and unmute you. And if you would like to share anything, any thoughts or reflections. Oops, I guess you have to unmute yourself. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So you want to share anything or reflect on what you've heard so far? And
Well, I was thinking about, and I'm not sure if it was in the book or not already. I haven't read that much of it so far, but when Jesus came and he actually brought the 7 demons out of Mary, I was kind of wondering if that was part of, the chakra system. If you put the 7 seals or the seven demons basically, and you line them up with the chakras, if he gave her like that purification, almost like when you have a Kundalini awakening and how it goes through and it burns, all the stuff out of it. And if that was why she became, so to speak, more than being clairvoyant.
yeah,
More like he gave her that cleansing, then cleaned up all of that so that she could be somewhat of an equal to him, or have the sight, or have the knowledge, or the Gnosis, basically.
exactly. There's actually, yes, in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, they put forth the idea in their commentary that it wasn't 7 demons, and
no, it wasn't.
that the early recorded pieces of parchment of the Bible that we have is actually written in ancient Greek.
Yes.
And in ancient Greek, the word demon is not Halloween demon. The word is daemon. And I was going to put the slide in. I will talk about it right now, but we're going to dive into that a little bit more next pillar. Because what happens is, it wasn't until Pope Gregory came along and he said that she was the woman at the well, and he labeled her a prostitute, and then he forced all priests to have to be celibate. From that point on, women and priests could no longer be married. The temples were all shut down by Paul, the Apostle Paul, so that had already started, and the rest of what had remained were the Cathars, who were respecting that women are equal and practicing that teaching of Jesus, that women and men are equal as spirit. So we will be diving into more of that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I guess I hadn't really thought about it before. You're going back a ways into the Disney slides and fairy tales, how, just sort of that propaganda piece about mistrusting older women.
Yeah.
And sort of the crone, and how it's very much portrayed as evil, and, like somehow like you're this young woman and you have all this potential, but like you're saying, it's all directed towards finding, the prince, and that somehow if you connect to that older woman, you're going to get, poisoned or something.
Yeah, she's gonna want what you have. She's gonna try to steal your man.
All the focus is put on getting the young man, and just like
you.
It's really I mean, just sort of seeing that so clearly. It's sort of a weird thing to realize how that was really programmed in. I think that when, as far as, it's really stormy here. I'm sorry, just looking at hearing things rattle. That place you're talking about of higher consciousness and feeling at one, I'm sure we've all experienced that from time to time. And I feel like the deeper truth is exactly, is that we're all one. And I think, I'm not Christian, but that's what I've always understood the Christ teaching, that this isn't just him, it's all of us. Just like, Gandhi used to say that I'm just an ordinary person, but I'm just experimenting with what's possible if I really apply the laws of love. And I think Christ was very similar. He wasn't trying to say that he was, elevated above everybody. He was trying to just really show us, and so. But I think, but that's true, and he's not. I mean, so I guess I still a little bit. I don't want to take anything away from Christ. Obviously, he's amazing, and I really love him. But at the same time, it's still like he's the master, and he's helping her. But she was also, like you said, anointing.
It's not so much Christ, and it's actually what Peter did, because it was Peter's stubbornness, and
right.
When you read in the end of the story, what happens is Peter storms out because he won't have.
But it's even like the reason he says to listen to her is not because women really know as much as men. It's because Christ said so, and he was their authority. So I guess it makes sense. But I just want to say that even in these teachings, it still seems kind of patriarchal in the sense that we're still saying, they have the authority and they can either give it or not give it. But I mean, I see that. I understand that was true at that time, 100%. And we're just sort of.
Yeah, Jesus says that we are our neighbor. We are our neighbor. We are our neighbor. So you need to, how you treat yourself, you treat your neighbor. We are all one. So however you are being with your neighbor, I mean, I don't exactly know how to articulate it, but it's just like Gandhi or Buddha or anyone else says, because we are our neighbor. And that's the teaching that we really need to treat our neighbors properly, because it's ourselves,
Split away from what Jesus was actually, and that's why it's so exciting to find the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, because it's confirming for us the original intent, which was that Jesus was trying to elevate the status of women, that he was trying to show people that women and men are equal.
Yeah.
Right, I guess what I'm trying to say is, can't we go past that and just say women and men are equal? Yes. Whether Jesus taught
that. We could, except for, like, one of my friends, I was just sharing with her that she should do a YouTube video because she's 80 years old and she is just such a perfect aligned. And I was looking at this, I saw this YouTube video that had 1.3 million hits, and it was a former supermodel who now has crepey eyelids, and she was showing them the tricks that she's using so that she can shadow control with different concealers and whatnot, so she can make her eyes look like they still were the eyes from when she was 20. Right? She's like, and there's 1.3 million women are like watching this thing, like, how did she do that? And how did she do the shadow effect so that it made the eye light reflect in the right places that gave her eye this
younger look?
We are still living with a culture of women that are obsessed. And as soon as a woman starts gaining some weight as she gets older, instead of understanding that all the little goddess statues that they found were all women with bellies. That this was.
I know about that, but that's not us. I'm just saying that's not us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think obsessing over our makeup.
No, but you don't know how rare you are. This is what I'm saying. There are millions and millions of women who don't understand. They don't.
I don't understand why you just can't have both worlds. I mean, if people want to, I know I'd like to look at fashion, and beauty is important to me in my life, and my kind of beauty, I guess. And
of course,
a deeply spiritual, and I think you can have both. I mean, I was fantasizing, why can't, if I were a nun, I'd want to change all the makeup.
I'm not even. I mean, that's just a whole different thing, and that's fine with me. I like all that too. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that I think I mean, you're right. Maybe not mainstream, but like us on this call, I mean, I think we really all get it, that we really are equal. If not, I mean, if anything, I think sometimes women have more access. But I try not to,
Well, and when you're spiritual, there isn't any labeling of masculine and feminine. It's more like solar, lunar. They're energies that we're working with, and not the male or the female aspect, in my opinion.
The fact that we just had the hashtag #MeToo movement start, after how many years and years of abuse that women have dealt with, and we all know women, if we're not ourselves as well, who have been treated inappropriately.
Yes.
And we're just now having the hashtag Me Too movement, and we're just now, getting these guys out who are in positions of power with their arrogance that I can do whatever the hell I want to any woman and grab whatever, what I want.
Yep, we're doing a big major clean out, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so, women are finally coming into alignment with each other, the sisterhood.
Yeah.
That is so important, where instead of being considered. So yes, it's really important, Eileen, that you are at the consciousness that you are, because you're a teacher. And so you can impart this knowledge and this wisdom to those who seek you out. But it's from my point of view and from what I've seen and noticed, is still so few women.
Oh, yeah, no question. And I think I'm just trying to say more on a personal level, that I want to go as far as I can.
Yeah.
Not just in, and I kind of said this in my email, like I want, like, her teaching. I want to know what, I want to learn from her, learn the teachings. And like you shared a lot of it today it's very simple, really, isn't it?
It's incredibly simple, but not easy, It's like try when every time you find, and of course, it's been kicking my butt this whole time since I said, okay, I'll teach it, right? And everything this harmonious that could possibly happen has been happening, right? And
but you're right.
The teacher has to learn what the teacher needs to learn. No, right?
The piece. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's my work, and that's what I'm teaching. And so it's a constant, daily. Absolutely, it is. It's it's an ongoing thing to master that. But that's what I'm most interested in. Is just what did she know? What did she learn at the Temple of Isis? What does she, What did she really? That's interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, the essential oils and the working with the idea of the whole plant is so much more powerful and healing. And that's why she knew about the oils, and she wouldn't have known about them if she hadn't gone to stay with her mother's sister at the Temple of Isis, because she was going along with the cultural norm, which is that at age 14 you just get married off, your parents arrange your marriage, and she knew that wasn't her destiny, and she stood up for herself. And fortunately her parents had some higher consciousness thoughts as well, and they supported her in that. So then she did go and get that knowledge, and she needed that background of knowledge so that she could be when she came back and set herself up in the town of Magdalene, she was able to meet Jesus. Yeah, and just realizing, I wonder if I pulled it.
I've gotten to that. That's in the book. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. What happens is, through my journey as a priestess, I have been led through different portals and exposed to different teachers that have filled in pieces. It's just like the Course in Miracles has filled in pieces of information that are not in, and then this book on the secret teachings of Mary Magdalene has filled in pieces. So
I'm going to get that.
Slowly, bit by bit.
What was that author again, please?
That is, well, I'll do it as I'll put it at the end.
Okay,
I'll acknowledge it in the end with the text when I create the video of it. But
great, thank you.
Christy, some of the books I've read, the story is told that kind of Christ comes back, and then they have a child, and then they live in different places, and they have this whole life together.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, because here it's like, no, he died and he resurrected, and she's the first one who saw him. And
right.
I mean, there's kind of like all these different branches of the story.
Yeah. And so, which one is the truth? And
I'm just curious what you.
Here's the driver's license and the birth certificate. We need to know that. And this is where the Course of Love says, sometimes there's more truth in the myth than there is in the actual reality of what actually happened. And the thing about it is, because you're led on a customized journey by the Holy Spirit to what's going to awaken you up, you are led to some of those books. So remember the whole thing. In fact, we I showed it here at the
Yeah.
about the alpha and the omega, that she is the beginning and the end. So within her archetype, with the Jungian archetype idea, she holds every possible vision, every possible piece of knowledge for your awakening.
Oh, that's interesting.
So if it rings true for you, if you resonate with it, go for it. You know, because there's no way, I mean, to be honest with you, the part of the reason why I stuck with this and I, have this, because we actually have the papyrus text,
Yeah.
and they're in our possession, and it's a small, I mean, it's not very long, but it's a small piece of evidence that what was the original intent was different than what we've been taught and trained. And so, considering that we still have so many people that are holding such egoic ideas that are destructive to our nature, and then to read this book saying there is no sin. The sin is what you make in your mind. If you're not thinking right thoughts, that's missing the mark. That's like not having right alignment with God. And so you're going to have all nature of problems and difficulties come up in your life because you're out of alignment. And so you have to get into right alignment. And the only thing that it really boils down to love or fear. And fear is false evidence appearing real, and love is the only thing that's real. And there's nothing that can happen to the love that you are. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be blown away. So the more you just put your focus and your dedication on showing up as love, being in love, and then you'll see the block to love will come up, and then you go, oh, there's a block to love. I have to forgive this. And then you forgive it. You release it. You speak your truth about it. You get back into your authentic self. You feel your feelings. Oh, I'm hurt. I'm wounded. I'm weeping. How can you think this of me? I have nothing but love for you. When somebody says, oh, you're a piece of whatever, and you just go back. So simple teaching. But look at how much, part of it is I take this time because I need the time to kind of, in that Jungian beautiful way of kind of meditating on it and reflecting on it, and to really kind of understand it, and go ahead, Springer.
I wanted to just throw out just something that you said, Eileen, that just something surfacing inside of me that maybe we can explore. You could help me to sort out, like when you said, and in the fairy tales, which we all know, and I never really thought about this before, the witch being the old women, and that women have always been reflected that way, and maybe fairy tales. But what I wonder is that when she's looking for the prince, never mind, take off the labeling, but she's finding love and in love, and the two are in love, right? They find it, so they go on to a whole different journey being in love. But if you don't find that love, let's say the Christ, let's say it's the Christ knowingness or the Buddha knowingness, whatever you might want to call it. Let's say if you don't find it in your life, that maybe you do end up becoming that cranky, bitterness. I'm wondering if that's what transcends. If you can't find that love, if you don't have that within yourself, the agape. And I was just kind of wondering about that.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just came to me. So thank you. Thank you very much.
It's fascinating because, theoretically, women, I think.
You got 2 minutes left.
Okay, we have a lot of wisdom. And then if you add that with life experience and you think about, I've just treasured the older women in my life who are wise women and spiritual older sisters. And then to think that our whole culture has tried to, separate from that and sow distrust. It's
right.
It's powerful, but yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like just only place we could find love is with the man, first of all.
Well, no, but maybe it's not representing that. Maybe we take the labeling off of it. Just really finding the love. And I guess the way I try to see things, but unfortunately, in our society, it's being portrayed that's the languaging that we use. Yeah.
Or even with another person, that you have to find it outside of yourself. And yeah, that's a powerful, we're all brought up on that, I think.
Yeah, you have to be looking out there, what's out there. Don't stop and go in.
But doesn't it take another to also transcend, or takes another, an otherness? You can't do it alone. I don't know. I wonder about that. If you were really by yourself, if you could really do it alone. If it takes Holy Spirit or take another human, I don't know. Yeah.
I think there's parts of it we can only find within ourselves. This is a debate I always have with one of my colleagues, because I'm very oriented towards the inner and the things you can only find, and he's very oriented to what you can only find with the other. So maybe they're both true, that there's pieces we get with other people, and that they can't give us everything we need. And there's some.
Yeah, because where do you get that reflection? When she's looking through the candle, and it's just like with the moon reflects the sun. We need that reflection somehow to be able to bring us to transcendence. I'm just throwing this out. I'm curious and wondering about it.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you. It's an interesting question.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something that my friend is in a nursing home right now, and I walk in there, and it's so hard to go visit.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the level of unconsciousness.
Yep.
Is like, oh Jesus. I was like,
yes,
she's pretty bright and pretty conscious, and so she's now starting to become a bit of a radiant light, and finding her purpose in being there is to serve in that way. But that's what I was telling my friend, who's an 80-year-old jewel of a enlightened woman. I said, you need to have your YouTube channel. I'm going to help you, because her message.
Good.
I say you can teach how to put the makeup on if you want to, but in the meantime, they're looking at an authentic self.
Yeah.
See, and this other woman they're not looking at an authentic self. And so it just communicates all kinds of like this, getting this eyeshadow just right. And you have to put only this much here and this much here. And then it pops your eyes. You see how it pops your eyes? And now it doesn't look like I have crepey eyes.
Right.
Oh my God.
But that's the level. Everybody has their tears, right, as they ascend, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's sad.
So, we should have young women knocking our doors down, coming to our workshops and our trainings, and following us, for an opportunity to hear our wisdom. But I tell you, that is not happening in America. So the millennials are kind of really on their own.
But that whole spiritual level somehow.
Yeah. Because they don't understand that they're following the marketing and not the wisdom.
That's right.
And but it's up for us to speak up. Remember, the voice got cut off.
Yeah, Peter's.
So now we need to bring our full voice. We need to open our throat chakras.
Yes.
And express ourselves. So that's why I decided to start doing this.
That's great. Thank you for doing it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes me happy.
Good. That counts.
Tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'll be full of light.
Oh, yay!
So, yeah, and I just keep going. So this, as hopefully if you guys can come Thursday.
I'm gonna try.
The eve of Saint Bridget. She is the patron saint of the midwife. So that's why we picked the night of her feast day.
I have it on my calendar. Let me see.
And we have the celebration of the birth and the rise of the divine feminine. So because we know we're equal and we're awake enough to understand that, so it's time to have this parallel sharing. So we just celebrated the masculine. Now we're going to celebrate the feminine, and we join together. And the whole idea about the joining, which I wanted to quickly add to it, is that it's a lot faster when we join.
Okay.
We can't go to the Himalayas and sit in a cave for 40 years. Awfully cold, awfully uncomfortable.
I don't think that'll work.
But if we join, and we have the principles the pillars in place so that we're in our integrity, we're in our truth, we're in right alignment, and we understand our source connection, our source of love comes from our connection through our heart and our own understanding that we are whole and complete. And then we extend that love to you. And we share that love. And in sharing that love, we stay in the present moment. We don't worry about what happened yesterday in the past because we've forgiven that already. And we're not worried about what you're going to do in the future because that hasn't happened. It can't happen because there's only right here and right now. And the three of us, Eileen, if you look forward here for a second, I just want to acknowledge that the three of us, there is enough love right here, right now.
Nice. Yeah.
Blessed be. And I am so grateful to all of you. And like I said, we've decided we're going to ordain anyone who would like to come up to Isis Oasis. You probably, Springer, have already been ordained.
No, I haven't. I was going to. And actually, what is the priestess who passed, the woman from England? I was there one time when she was there.
Yeah, Celestine. Yeah.
When is that?
It's the Columbus Day weekend.
No. It was the lady.
Oh, Lady Olivier. Yes,
I was there at one time when she was there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she passed away.
Yeah, no, I understand.
She had quite the Shakti pot, boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah. And I was going to do it, and then I didn't. And
well, maybe you'll join us and we'll do it. It's
I'll
really
bring Sonia. Sonia's a priestess, actually, Sonia Wolf. So maybe she'll come with me. And when is that again?
It's the Columbus Day weekend of October.
Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe I can have her. Yeah, that would be kind of interesting to do.
Yeah, I have to get the dates on that. To look it up.
That's fine. We'll talk about that later. Thanks.
And then if you have any questions or anything come up, and help spread the word because we're archiving the video. So I'm happy to help people get caught up, and I think they would if they watch the two archives before. They'll be able to see. And
great. Thank you very much.
Anyway, thank you all.